Hey all, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a lovely day as always. And today I'm going to bring you guys my top 10 best Battle Brother builds that I really enjoyed using for expert difficulty. So first off, we have the Forged Generalist. So this guy is basically going to be a jack of all trades. He's usually placed on the front line, but honestly, he can frontline, he can backline, he can hold the flanks, he can do pretty much a bit about everything. He's very flexible. You can give him like basically any weapon and he'll be fine. Like any two-hander, he'll be alright. On this gear section, you'll see like he has double axe, but you can give him a sword, like a great sword and a jagged pike, or a hammer and a pole hammer, or a mace and a two-handed mace. Sorry, like a heavy mace and like a pole mace. This guy is just very versatile in his weapon selection. In terms of stats, we're gonna want to have around 68 HP before we have a Colossus perk. HP is always good because it means you can take more damage before your character dies, and the more HP you have, the more damage the enemy will have to do to inflict injuries. So more HP generally is a good thing. So 68 before any perks. For fatigue, we're gonna want to have around 120 fatigue because this Battleforged Generalist is gonna have the heaviest armor you have. So that's gonna keep him really healthy. He can take a lot of damage. So we're gonna need a lot of health to mitigate the weight of that armor. In terms of melee defense, we're gonna want at least to have 25 melee defense on it if possible. The higher the better. Honestly, like 30 is much better than 25. Obviously, more is more than less, right? But for someone on the front line, we're gonna need a decent amount of melee defense to be able to dodge attacks and yeah, just keep fighting. In terms of melee attack, depending on the weapon, your melee attack might change, but I think 85 plus is always good to have. Maybe a bit less if you're using a flail, mainly because flails ignore the shield defense bonus. Yeah, ignore the defense bonus from shields, so you can get away with having a little bit less melee attack. But the higher, as much as melee attack as you can get on this guy, you should, yeah, it's always a good thing. And in terms of resolve, I like to have a minimum of 60 resolves before any perks. Some people say you can get by like only having 40 to 50 resolve, but I like to have 60 as a bare minimum because resolve makes your guys not waver, they don't rout, and they don't get fear. They don't fear basically, and that's always a good thing, right? Because when you guys waver or they fear, they rout, they lose a lot of stats. They lose melee defense, they lose melee attack, and it's just bad time. Just bad time. Honestly, after all of the perks, I have guys that have 90 to 100 resolve. So that's I like to have high resolve on all of my at least my Battleforged Generalist. So in terms of gear, what we're looking at is, like I said before, we want the heaviest armor. So we're looking at like a 300 plus helm or 300 plus armor. Additional fur padding is an armor attachment that requires one unhold fur and one direwolf pelt, and you can combine them together as a taxidermist, and you get additional fur padding. That's always good on a Battleforge, bro. In terms of weapons, you can have whatever two-handed weapons you want. So one main two-handed weapon for close range, and one long two-handed weapon, so I can hit 2 tiles away. In terms of the third slot, you can have whatever gear you want. I like to have nets. Nets are always good. You can always chuck them on problematic enemies, and it will make them easier to kill. As for the other necklace or whatever, or deployable, we have like a Warhound. I really like having dogs. They are good force multipliers. They allow you to get more surround bonus on an enemy. They can let you chase fleeing enemies, and they can provide good distraction whenever you need it. In terms of these other gear, here on the right, I like to carry like extra arrows, extra crossbow bolts, extra powder bags. Mainly because sometimes your range guy will run out of ammo and he might not have enough in his inventory, so you can always just drop something and your range guy can pick it up. So that's it. Now moving on to the perks. For defensive perks on this guy, we're gonna want to have Colossus, Steel Brow, Fortified Mind, Underdog, Battleforge, and Battleforge. So all of these perks, they help you basically survive. In like Colossus and Steel Brow and Battleforge, they help you survive in the sense that you can take more damage, which is always good. Oops. Steel Brow is actually really important on a Battleforge bro, so he doesn't get one shot to the head by an Orc Berserk Flail. So there's that. Head injuries are really bad because they deal like 1.5 extra damage, I believe. So Steel Brow is always a must in my opinion for at least the frontline bro. Fortified Mind really pushes this guy's resolve really high. That will help against mind control effects from like Hexen, fear effects such as Horrify from like Ancient Priests. Having high resolve is always I always love to have high resolve on all of my bros. In terms of damage perks, what we're looking at is probably just Headhunter and Killing Frenzy. So Headhunter makes it so that when you land a headshot, which is like a 25% chance, your next attack becomes 100% guaranteed to get a headshot. And that's actually really insane in terms of doing consistent damage. So I really like Headhunter. And Headhunter is actually really good with the axe, because an axe, when you land a shot it inflicts another attack to the body for like 50%, or maybe another attack to the head for 50%. So it always hits twice. The second attack does a little bit less, but that's just extra damage. So Headhunter pairs really well with axes, to my understanding. In terms of utility, what we have now is... Oh, I should probably explain Underdog from earlier. And Underdog just makes it so that when you get surrounded, because you will get surrounded in this game, that you get there's less hit chance on you. There's something called like a defense molus or something. Underdog is really helpful. It also negates the backstabber perk from enemies, so they get less hit chance on you. So Underdog always good. Okay, so as for utility perks, we have Pathfinder. So Pathfinder just allows you to move across the battlefield really quickly. It reduces the fatigue cost, and it reduces the action point cost to 2. So when you combine Pathfinder, or actually, first off, I should say, when you use Pathfinder, terrains such as swamp, tundra, or high ground, changing elevations from low ground to high ground, or high ground to low ground, they don't take up extra action points, which is really big. And when you combine it with like a weapon mastery, such as axe mastery, you only take up a minimum of like, I think 14 fatigue per turn, also 15 fatigue per turn, something like that. And your character always recovers 15 fatigue per turn, so it's what we call fatigue neutral. So your character will always have stamina to at least walk 1 tile and hit once, and that's really important for this guy. Yeah, so always walk once, hit once. And that also pairs nicely with Quick Hands as well. So Quick Hands allows you to swap from your primary to your secondary, or whatever is in your backpack, without any action point cost. So this guy can be on the front line, but if there's an enemy that you really need to kill from 2 tiles away, you swap over to like a long range 2-hander, like a long axe, and you can hit that enemy from a bit further away. So it offers quite a lot of flexibility. Quick Hands. So together, when you combine all these perks, you have a really well-rounded Battleforged Generalist. Like I said, you can put him on the front line. He's also decent in the back line, but obviously not ideal. And you can secure the flanks quite nicely. You can choose whatever weapon mastery you want. I just have this guy on double axe. I mostly run double axe for these guys because axes are really versatile, really high damage output. But if you give this guy like a mace, it's also really good as well. Or a hammer. Hammer can shred armor, stagger enemies. That's also fantastic. Flail is also decent as well for clearing out the enemy's front line, but I'll get onto a more specialized build in just a bit. But yeah, you can really give this guy anything and he'll be fine. So I really like the Battleforged Generalist. I always have a few of these guys in any lineup that I have. It's always good. And as an option, you can always take out your weapon mastery. See, optional thing here. You can always take out your weapon mastery and take out Quick Hands, and instead put in Brawny and Fearsome. Okay, so the reasoning behind this is that you actually don't really need a weapon mastery all the time, because often this guy, he's such a generalist that you can swap out his weapons for whatever the battle requires. So generally, like I said, I run double axe for these guys. But what happens if you're versing like spiders or dire wolves or really like fleshy enemies? You're better off with like a greatsword, like a Zweihander, right? So you equip a greatsword and then you swap out the long axe with like a jagged pike, and then you're really good to go. Or if you're gonna be versing ancient undead and you know they're gonna have a lot of shields, give this guy a 2-handed flail and like a what's it called, a pole hammer, and then you can just smash ancient undead. So really versatile, really good. Okay, moving on. So this is the first build. Now moving on to the second, we have our Nimble Forged Generalist. So First and foremost, the difference between a Nimble Forged Generalist and the Battle Forged Generalist is that this guy has a lot more fatigue to work with, and he's a lot faster. Okay, so this guy's role is to secure the flanks of your formation, or to rush down enemies such as like goblins, or enemies that want to keep their distance. You can rush them down like archers. So this guy is really good for that because he's really fast, and we'll get to why in just a moment when we look at the perks. So you really want to position this guy optimally. Like, you position him on the flanks, so your front line goes engage the enemy. This guy is going to secure the flanks and try to collapse on the enemy if possible, and they can screen cavalry, or not really cavalry, but like there will be enemies such as like dire wolves and goblin wolf riders coming around the side of your formation, trying to flank your backliners or flank your archers or your crossbowmen, your gunners or whatnot. This guy is pretty good at fighting them off. So Nimble Forged Generalist is pretty good. So let's talk about the stat focus. We do want to put in around the similar amount of health before any perks, like 68. You put in more HP if you want. I don't think it's necessary. We're gonna want to put a bit more. Well, we don't actually need that much more points in fatigue compared to the Battle Forged Generalist, mainly because this guy is going to be wearing medium armor. So we're talking around like a 200 helmet and a 200 body armor, or around let's say around 30 fatigue worth of armor. 35 fatigue worth of armor. So it actually doesn't require that much fatigue, to be honest. In terms of melee defense, obviously we're gonna want to have a good amount of melee defense on a melee character, so at least 25 plus is ideal. Melee attack, get as much as you can, it's always a good thing. But compared to the Battle Forged Generalist, we want to start putting points into initiative as well, because initiative makes you act faster, makes your bro faster, puts them in an earlier turn order if possible, compared to other characters that have a lower initiative. So this guy, usually a Nimble Forged Generalist is going to be really high up in the turn order, as in they'll act first. They're more likely to act first in a turn, and that's really good. So when you have high initiative, it just means that you can walk right up to the enemy's front line, or walk right up to the enemy whenever you want, end turn, and you're probably going to be able to hit them before they even have their turn. So high initiative can be a really good thing. Okay, so I'll explain more of that when we get to the perks. So when we look at the gear, we're going to want like I said, around a 200 helmet. This is a Zweihander helmet. It's 170 for 7 fatigue. That's my go-to helmet. I really like that. And then we're going to look for around a roughly 200 armor. I don't have the image for the adorned chest piece. It's like an adorned armor. It's a really common one. It gives you 240 protection for 24 fatigue. I can't find that. I can't find that image, so I just put a footman's armor here, which is 190 for I think around 18 fatigue. But you can get around, like I said before, you can get away with using around a 200 helmet and a 200 armor. That's pretty good. As for your weapons, you're gonna want to pick one good two-hander that you use, and that's gonna be your main focus. You're gonna be using that weapon for the most part. You're not really gonna be swapping between other weapons. You can carry a dagger. Dagger is always good to, at the end of a battle when the enemies are running away, you can use the second ability of the dagger, which is Puncture, which is dealing direct damage to the opponent's health, bypassing their armor. And it's always important to dagger down many enemies so you can steal their armor and steal their gear, so that you can use on your brother. It's a very economical thing to have in your inventory. And a smoke pot. I think a smoke pot is always nice to have in case your brothers ever get in trouble. You can pull out a smoke pot, chuck it down onto the battlefield. It covers, I think, 9 tiles, roughly, and any brother within those 9 tiles can ignore zone of control and just leave if they're ever in a tough situation. So smoke pot, always good to have. As for the other gear, Warhound, always good to have to help you support on the flanks. And in terms of like ammo, you can carry whatever you want, doesn't really matter. Moving on to the perks, similarly to the Battle Forged Generalist, we have Colossus for more HP, more survivability, same as Steel Brow, Battle Forged as well, and Underdog. Now the main difference here is that we also have Nimble. So what Nimble does is, the lighter your armor is, the less damage you take to your HP. So with around a 200 helmet and a 200 armor, you should be looking at taking roughly 34% less damage to your health, which is really good. Yes. Battle Forged, the heavier your armor is, the less damage you take to your armor. I should have mentioned for the Battle Forged guy, you're probably going to be taking around maybe 30 to 40% less damage to your armor. For a Nimble Forged brother, since the armor is a bit lighter, you're going to be taking around 20% less damage to your armor. So when you combine taking less damage to your armor plus taking less damage to your health, the Nimble Forged Generalist has quite a bit of health to work with, so that's really nice. In terms of other defensive perks, this guy also gets dodge. So dodge basically means that you gain, I think, 15% extra defense, melee defense, range defense, based on your current initiative. So at the start of a battle, let's say you have 120 initiative, you're going to gain another at least 18 melee defense. So the Nimble Forged Generalist has pretty good melee defense at the start of a battle at least. So that's good. In terms of damage perks, we have we don't have a Headhunter compared to the Battle Forged Generalist, but we still do have Killing Frenzy. And then instead of Headhunter, we have Berserk. So what Berserk does is that every time you secure a kill, you get 4 extra action points to use. So a primary attack from like a two-handed weapon usually costs 6 AP, 6 action points. So you have 9 action points in total. You swing once for 6. If you get a kill, your AP goes from 3 plus 4 to 7. So you get 7 AP. You can swing one more time afterwards. So it's really high damage output with this guy. Well, there's potential for a really high damage output, which is why I really like Berserk on this character. So the idea is that if you're on the flank, you really want to kill those enemies on the edge, so you can collapse towards the center of the enemy's formation. Or like if you're rushing down like really weak enemies, you're gonna want to chop down as many as you can really quickly. Or you can get 1 kill with the axe, and then you have 7 action points. 7 action points to use to traverse to walk. So you can walk like 3 tiles after you've killed something, which is really good for taking ground, closing the distance, and yeah, whatever. In terms of utility, we don't have Pathfinder, but we do have Relentless. So what Relentless does is it just keeps our initiative high. So your fatigue, your accumulated fatigue reduces your initiative reduces your initiative, which is bad because it also reduces our defense that we get from dodge. So having Relentless is pretty good. Relentless also ensures that there's no penalty to using the wait button, the wait command. So even if you like press wait and you act last in a turn, your initiative will still be really high for the next turn. So you will be put earlier in the turn order. So Relentless, really important to have on the Battle Forged Generalist, because like I said when I first introduced this guy, you're gonna walk them. Sometimes you might just want to walk them right up to the enemy and end turn, whenever, and you'll be one of the first people to act in the next turn. So that's actually really insane when you think about it, because you get to hit the enemy before they get to hit you, even if you acted after them in the previous turn. So that's pretty insane. Also, that also makes it pair well with weapons that stun and stagger. For example, like a two-handed mace or a two-handed hammer. So the two-handed mace, obviously, if you hit someone, you can like stun them and take them out. So that enemy no longer is acting in that turn. So if you act first, you stun the enemy, they can't do anything, and your slower brothers can have the chance to hit them now. So that's a pretty good synergy. Also, yeah, same applies for hammer. Instead of stunning, you stagger them. So a stagger effect basically reduces the enemy's initiative, so it's more likely to put them later into the turn order. So even your slower brothers have a chance to hit the enemy. Some enemies are immune to stun, so that's why you want to use hammer for stagger instead. So yeah, this brother is very good. I like to have a couple in my lineups. I really like the Nimble Forged Generalist. As an option, you can always take out Berserk or Underdog to put in Pathfinder, so you get a bit more mobility. Yeah, just a bit more mobility at the cost of killing power or survivability. And honestly, that's probably worth it. But I like it. I like this build as is. It's pretty good. Alright, moving on to our third build. We have the Flail Frontliner. So, just let me get a cup of water real quick. Okay, so the Flail Frontliner, this guy's whole role is to smash enemy shield walls. Shields are very prevalent in Battle Brothers. They really tie down your front line a lot because shields just give enemies so much extra effective HP by giving them more defense, and the shield also has hit points as well, right? So it can be really annoying to deal with shields, but the flail solves that problem because flails ignore the defense bonuses granted by shields because they hit over them. So a guy with a flail can really clear out the enemy front line. And so what that means is that when you, for example, if you're versing a bunch of nobles, the front line has a bunch of shields. If you kill those guys with shields, the enemies at the back, the ones with pole arms, are really exposed. And so you can just punch straight through the formation and just start like carving up all of the backliners. So the Flail Frontliner is really important. I feel I always have at least two, sometimes three of this guy in every lineup that I have. So let's go over the stats. What we want is, yeah, just around 68 HP before Colossus. Well, like once you get Colossus, you'll have 85 HP, so that's usable. We're going to want to have the maximum amount of fatigue on this guy as possible because this guy is going to be very fatigue intensive. Well, I'll explain once we get to the gear and the perks. Obviously, for a frontline class, we're going to want a lot of melee defense, and we can get away with having only around 80 attack, 80 melee attack, because the flail does ignore the defense bonus granted by shields, so it's not 100% necessary to have such high attack. Obviously, the more the better, but 80 is still usable. Whereas, like if you try to use like an axe or like a hammer or a mace with only 80, you're gonna have a kind of a bad time. Not gonna lie, against many enemies. Okay, so let's go through the gear. So obviously for Battle Forge, you're going to want to have the heaviest armor. That's like a 300 plus helmet, 300 plus armor. Additional fur padding is always good. As for the gear, you don't really... This guy is going to be like in the center of your front line. And because he's in the center, you don't really get use out of War Dog as much because, yeah, there's not much opportunity to deploy War Dog when the formations are really tightly packed. So giving this guy a bit more resolve with like a Hexen trophy, an Alp trophy necklace, or whatever you want to give this guy more resolve is always good. So it doesn't break. Doesn't flee. Just keep him brave, you know? Just keep him brave. As for weapons, what we want is a flail of your choice. Now, I have the Berserk Chain here. It is very fatigue intensive, but it has the ability to two-shot Orc Warriors to the head. This weapon is extremely dangerous. Anyone who doesn't have a helmet is going to probably die in one hit. If they have a weak helmet, they're going to die in one hit. Is a beast of a weapon. And I feel that for the purposes of smashing a front line, you're going to want to have the highest damage output as possible, and you want to smash as much as you can at the start to really open up that formation in the early stages of a battle, so you can just push through and hit those backliners. So I put in the Berserk Chain. But you can always use a regular two-handed flail if you want. I think the Berserk Chain is just really good to have. As for the other items, Dagger, always good to have to dagger down enemies. Smoke Pot in case someone's in danger. Always good to have. Okay, let's go over the perks here. So, like, defensive perks, just like the other guys, we're going to have Colossus, we're going to have Steel Brow, just so that we can take more hits, take less injuries. Underdog. So we don't get surrounded. This guy will probably get surrounded, being on the... Oh, actually, not really. But you don't want this guy to take hits, because he needs to be able to smash that front line. Smash the enemy front line up, clear away the shields. So, Underdog, always good. Battle Forge, obviously, we want to take less damage to the armor. So compared to the previous two builds, we also have Brawny as well, because we're going to want to have as much fatigue on this guy. So if you're wearing like a 300... helmet and a 300 chest piece, that's going to be roughly 21 fatigue for the helmet and roughly 42 fatigue for the armor piece. So that's like 60. Let's just say that's 60 fatigue worth of armor that you're wearing. Brawny reduces the fatigue that cost by 30%. So we're taking away 18 fatigue requirement. So basically, by taking this perk, you gain plus 18 fatigue. That's insane. Because we're gonna need this, especially if you use the Berserk Chain, you're gonna need to have a lot of fatigue, okay? As for killing skills, just like the Battleforged Generalist, we're gonna have Headhunter and Killing Frenzy. And both of these actually pair extremely well with any Flail, because Flails deal extra armor piercing to the head. They deal an extra 10% damage ignores armor on headshots with Flails, so Flails are really good. Also, on a side note, because Flails tend to headshot more than other weapons and deal more damage on a headshot, what you end up seeing in your gameplay is that a lot of enemies will be absolutely destroyed in the head, like the helmets will be destroyed, but the body armor remains relatively intact. So you're gonna have a lot of armor pieces, like chest pieces, after every battle, which is really nice actually. Okay, in terms of damage perks, we're gonna have Berserk added onto the Headhunter plus Killing Frenzy. So Berserk is really important for smashing shields, because you smash a shield guy, you kill him, you're probably gonna have Headhunter plus Berserk active, so you can take another swing, kill another guy with a shield. Fantastic, right? We're gonna want to clear away those shield guys as fast as possible. Obviously, you can't Berserk forever. You can't Berserk forever because it's really fatigue intensive, but you don't need to Berserk forever. You Berserk maybe once or twice, and you kill like an extra shield guy or two. That's fantastic. That's really good. Because like if you kill the guys in the front with a shield, the enemies on the flank with shields, they're gonna try and fill in the gaps, so they go back towards the center. But if they don't go back towards the center, you can just punch right through and hit those backliners. Yeah, just start targeting the backliners. So yeah, that's it. Obviously for utility as well, we're gonna have Pathfinder. So it just makes it so that we can always walk one tile forward and hit once. So we're always advancing, or most of the time at least. So we're always advancing. So Pathfinder is quite important to me. Yeah. That's pretty good. If you didn't want to take Pathfinder, you could probably take Fortified Mind, but yeah, whatever. I like Pathfinder on this guy. So as an option, you can always take out the Berserk Chain for a less fatigue-intensive two-handed flail. That pairs more nicely with Berserk, so you can Berserk more often compared to using the Berserk Chain. And you become fatigue neutral if you use a two-handed flail. So that will only take 12 fatigue to swing. And Pathfinder makes it so that it's like 2 action points and like 3 fatigue, or 2 to 3 fatigue to move. So you'll become fatigue neutral. You're not fatigue neutral with the Berserk Chain, so keep that in mind. If the battle drags on for long enough, there will be times where you cannot swing, or there will be times where you cannot move one tile forward and swing. So just keep that in mind. But I really like the damage of the Berserk Flail, which is why I basically always run this guy with the Berserk Flail. It's lovely. Alright, moving on. I think this is the 4th build. We've got the Battleforged DPS. So, we have our dedicated frontliners. They can do a bit of everything. They're really generous, but in terms of killing, they're not exactly fully specialized into killing, right? So this guy this guy's role is just to use AoE attacks to kill as many enemies as possible. He's going to be focusing on damage output. Usually you're going to place this guy on the back line or maybe on the flank. And yeah, like I said, focus on using AoE abilities. We're going to want to make sure that this guy, because he's going to have the Berserk skill, he secures kills. A frontline generalist, or like, shouldn't really be, he doesn't have to take kills if he can help it. He should save the kills for brothers with Berserk so they can act a second time in a turn, if that makes sense. In terms of stats, we're going to want to have at least like 68 HP on this guy before Colossus, just like all the other guys. HP doesn't really matter as much for a backliner because they're most likely not going to get attacked. The main threat would probably be enemy goblins, or enemies that have like a lot of armor piercing, like crossbowmen. So those are going to be the main banes of this guy's existence. In terms of fatigue, we're gonna want to have as much fatigue on this guy as possible. 130. I think that's the max you can get without any stars, I believe. But yeah, just try and get as much fatigue as you can on this guy if possible. In terms of melee defense, you don't really need that much because, like I said, this guy's going to be in the back. But having like around 20 at least is good. Like, but some melee defense is better than none because obviously like you can't always be out of danger from melee because sometimes enemies such as orc warriors will just punch straight through your front line. And yeah, they'll engage your back line. So melee defense becomes relevant a little bit then. Melee attack, obviously you want as much as you can on a guy like this. So in terms of gear, this guy can deploy dogs more reliably. Because if this guy is in the back line, he can also deploy a dog behind himself. The dog's gonna probably run around to the side. So dogs are pretty good to have. Sorry, armor as well. Armor, you're gonna want 300 plus helm, 300 plus chest piece if possible. In terms of primary weapons, you're probably looking like at a weapon that can do a lot of good AoE damage. So we're talking about war scythes, sword lances are the top picks for me. Otherwise, you could probably use like a pole mace. A pole mace might be good. Or what's it called? Oh, I forgot. Like a long axe if you need. But generally, I think a war scythe or a sword lance is good because you have the ability to cleave through 3 enemies with its special attack, and we're going to be spamming a lot of special attacks. Okay, if you want to make this guy more of a frontliner or a guy that's on the flank, you can swap out the war scythe for something like a cleaver. A cleaver would be good. Any two-handed cleaver is pretty good on this guy. Yeah, if you got like a legendary cleaver, yes, chuck him on this guy. It'll be fine. Just gonna have to be mindful that you might not have a lot of melee defense. Yeah, you might not have a lot of melee defense because we're gonna focus more on fatigue and melee attack. Okay, so that's actually in terms of other gear, we're gonna have like a smoke pot. Just to help out brothers in the front. Maybe someone's in danger, they need to get out. You can swap to a smoke pot, chuck it. That brother can just leave, you know? It's good. You also can have a shield as well. Because sometimes this guy, the Forged DPS is probably going to be like an arrow magnet, to be honest, sometimes. Because range guys really like to hit you guys in the back for some reason. Or depending on your range skill. Maybe you have like a visible range skill and you're getting focused down by arrows. You always have a shield. If you're using like a pole weapon plus pole arm mastery, your weapon only takes 5 AP to swing. So you can always swing once with the pole weapon. If you feel like your guy's in a lot of danger, you can always just pull out the shield for the remaining 4 AP, and you can like maybe tank a hit or 2 with the shield. So and then next turn you swap back to the pole weapon for 4 AP. You swing once for 5 damage. Yeah, it's pretty good. Sorry, for 5 AP you can swing again with the pole weapon. So now moving on to the perks, just like most of the builds that we have today, we're gonna have Colossus, Steel Barrel for the defensive perks, as well as Battle Forged. We also have Brawny as well, just so that we can get that extra plus like 18 to plus 20 extra fatigue that we can use on special attacks with our primary weapon. So there's that. In terms of kill skills, we got the classic Berserk, Headhunter, Killing Frenzy, don't need to explain that again. But in addition to that, we have Executioner. So, you know what's really good? You know what really pairs well with damage? More damage. So like, we get the extra headshot damage from like, or the extra consistent headshots from Headhunter, combine that with Killing Frenzy, combine that with a plus extra 20% on Executioner for enemies that already have injuries, and we're dealing a lot of damage. And when your focus is to just DPS down enemies, Executioner is great. In terms of other utilities, utility perks, we have Recover. Because this guy is really fatigue intensive, because this guy will be AoEing a lot, he might not have a lot of fatigue after a while, so Recover is always good. I suppose if you feel like you're really pressed for fatigue, you can always swap out the helmet for something that's a bit lighter. So instead of like maybe a 300 helmet, you can go with like a 250 or maybe even a 200 helmet, or even a 170 helmet. Honestly, it's up to you, but you'll always benefit a lot from Battle Forged. You can reduce the weight of the helmet down a little bit. Okay. In terms of options, if you want a bit more mobility with your like say backliner, you can always take out Executioner. It does make this guy's whole role of being a good DPS character a bit a bit worse. But maybe you really value the extra mobility, especially if you plan on going to fights where there's a lot of high ground, like a lot of elevation changes, or where there's like a swamp, a lot of swamps. Like say if you want to bring this guy into like a Kraken fight for whatever reason, right? Pathfinder are basically necessary. Um, by reducing movement to a minimum of 2, you can actually walk twice and hit once with the with any pole weapon, besides the usual only walk once, hit once, if you have Pathfinder. So yeah, I really like to have a Forged DPS. I usually like to run one of these guys, two. Actually, yeah, around two. I usually have around two of these guys in my lineups because I really like dealing a lot of damage. It's really good. They're not as versatile as like a Battleforged Generalist or one of the more Generalist classes, but having a guy focused on DPS is always good because when you get into the late game, there's gonna be a lot of enemies. There's gonna be hordes of enemies. I'm talking like 30, 40 enemies plus. So having a guy that's just really good at killing is really good. Obviously, right? Moving on. I think we're on to our fifth build here. We've got the Bannerman or the Sergeant. So there's a unique item in this game that's called the Battle Standard. It basically means when you have this weapon out equipped, all allies within a 4-tile radius get 10% of your base resolve. Oh no, not your base resolve, of your current resolve, I believe. So it's really good for boosting the morale of all of your troops. So that is actually the role of this guy, or the role of a Bannerman, or the role of a Sergeant, is to raise the resolve of all your brothers to make sure they don't rout, they don't flee, they don't get scared, or just make them really confident. So having high resolve, always a good thing. Always a good thing. It's never bad to have low resolve. Also, having high resolve also means that you're less prone to mind control effects. I believe if your brother has 135 resolve, there's only a 5% chance of getting mind controlled. So that's pretty good, right? Just as like a small side note, in my last run, I had a Bannerman with 175 resolve. So basically, I think everyone was getting plus 17 resolve within a 4-tile radius. It was crazy. My men basically never broke. In the 550 days of that campaign, I think I only had like 2 guys rout. Like, maybe on like 2 separate occasions. Like, some guy like routed. Like less than 5 times, I believe they routed. So having high resolve is pretty insane. Okay, where do you want to position your Bannerman? I say backline, but honestly, you can probably put him in the front line if you really needed to. Because he's like a Battleforge guy. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. A note here that I have here is that you're going to need to manage your fatigue a bit carefully because if you're moving around a lot and you're attacking a lot, maybe you might run out of stamina. This guy is built to be fatigue neutral. But the longer a battle drags on, maybe you're moving a lot, or you're taking a lot of hits, and you're losing fatigue, or for whatever reason, you might not be able to rally. This is that perk here. I'll just explain it now. Rally, I think, makes your guy blow like a horn, and all allies, I think, within a 4-tile radius get a positive morale check. Like they get a morale check to try and raise their state of mind. So, for example, if they are routing, they may change to wavering. If they're wavering, they may change to steady. I think that's how it works. So, basically, if you guys are running away, you use rally, and then there's a good chance they stop running away. Or if they're scared and you blow the horn, they may not be scared anymore. It also works on sleep effects. So, for example, there's an enemy called an Alp. An Alp will put like a sleeping spell on your brother, and if you blow the horn, it'll wake them up. So, blowing the horn is quite important in this game. So just make sure you have enough fatigue to blow the horn when you need to. In terms of stats, yeah, just have the typical 68 HP before any perks. This guy, we're gonna want to have a lot of fatigue on this brother. It's not necessary to have super high fatigue. because this guy is fatigue neutral with the weapon mastery plus Pathfinder, but it gives you more options to blow the horn. Or maybe you need to blow the horn multiple times, right? Having more fatigue is always good. In terms of magic defense, you only need like around 20. More is better. Obviously, more is more than less. But since this guy's in the back, doesn't really need that much. You want as much attack as possible, of course, and you want as high resolve as possible. I say at least 80 plus. I always, personally, before any perks, I always try to get this guy up to like 100 fatigue. Actually, I don't know if that's possible. I think 80 fatigue is the max. Yeah, 80 is probably the max. Plus perks, your fatigue just goes through. Sorry, your resolve goes through the roof. There's also an injury called brain damage. It reduces your initiative by I think 25%, or 15 or 25. No, yeah, 25%. It reduces your experience gain by I think 15%, but it improves the resolve by 20%. So if your brother has brain damage, that's actually a good thing. It's a good permanent injury to have for a Bannerman or a Sergeant. Okay. Let's go on to the gear. Obviously, 300 plus helmet, 300 plus armor, additional fur padding if possible. Obviously, you want the battle standard. You're gonna want to have like a what's called shield as well. Shield not necessary, but you can put whatever you want. But I like to have a shield. Like I said, just like the DPS guy, if you throw out a hit for 5 AP, maybe you want to swap to a shield for your last remaining 4 AP so you can tank a shot or something, if necessary. And I like to carry a bandage on this guy because bandages, although they aren't useful for most of Battle Brothers playthrough, sometimes there's always going to be that one brother that has like 10 HP or something and he's suffering from like a bleed stack. And he's going to bleed out unless you bandage him. So I always carry one bandage in the entire roster just to be safe. It's always good. Okay, moving on. Oh yeah, in terms of the other items, you want the Sergeant Sash. I believe that's an item. If it's an ambition reward, so you have like a quest to have one guy with the rally ability, and once you fulfill that quest, you get this ability. You get this item for free. It improves your resolve plus 10, so that's really good. Okay, moving on to the perks. In terms of defensive perks, it's the same. Colossus, Steel Brow, and Battleforge. No explanation required. Resolve, a Fortified Mind to improve your resolve by a lot. Brawny to give you that extra fatigue to work with, always good. Pathfinder for extra mobility to get your brother where he needs to be so he can blow that horn. Because like sometimes, let's say you're on the bottom of the map, but then you have like an isolated team towards the top, and they're starting to waver. You're gonna need to run your guy over as fast as possible, so you can blow the horn in range to support them. Okay, so the new perks that we see here are Rally. I've explained that to you already about what it does, but we also have Fearsome as well. So what Fearsome does is it, upon dealing damage to an enemy's health, minimum 15 damage, I believe, you trigger a morale check on them based on your current resolve. I believe it's your current resolve. So if you have like 100 resolve, and you deal like 15% of that, you deal 15 damage. It's not like 15 damage, but you do a morale check of 15 against the enemy. And I guess the simplest way to explain is that when you have Fearsome, when you deal damage to an enemy's health, they are more likely to run away. They're more likely to waver, to rout, and that's always a good thing, right? You don't have to kill an enemy, you just have to convince them to run away. And if they run away, they're not fighting. It's really good. Fearsome is really good. Often Fearsome pairs well with axes, because axes hit twice, so you can trigger double morale check. But on the Bannerman that has such high resolve, Fearsome is good. It's niche, but it's good. Okay, the other new perk here we have is Rotation. I find that sometimes you need to save a brother that's on the front line. He's taking a bit too much damage. He's starting to waver, but he hasn't routed yet. He's starting to waver, or he's like bleeding, and you gotta get him out of danger. Chuck this guy in instead. You rotate the guy out. You rotate this guy in. So that's part of this guy's role, to rotate casualties, to save lives, basically. And this brother, since he's battle forged and he's got really high resolve, he can tank a lot of hits and he won't waver. He will not waver. He will not break. He will just sit there and he will tank the damage. In my previous playthrough, I had a sergeant with I think 4 or 5 permanent injuries, like a missing eye, a maimed foot. He got brain damage and he got like a collapsed lung, but never once did he break. Like I don't think he broke in like the 400 days I had him. He didn't break a single time, and he kept fighting to the end. He was like an absolute legend. So rotation is really good to have. Rotation is really good to have. Okay. As for the options, maybe you don't want fearsome because fearsome can be considered niche because it only works on enemies that can actually get scared. So we're talking like humans. Yeah, basically like humans, right? Some like beasts can get scared as well, like unholds or lindworms. They can get scared, but they usually have really high resolve. So fearsome doesn't really work against them, and fearsome doesn't work against like enemies like undead that don't get scared because they're already dead. Makes sense, right? So fearsome not always necessary, but you know, underdog is always good, especially if you're going to be rotating this guy with casualties. Underdog is always good to have, so to make sure this guy takes less damage. So yeah, that's an option that you can have. All right, moving on. I think on to our 6th build now. It's been a total of 46 minutes. I'm losing my breath. I haven't talked as much since I worked in consulting. Okay, so moving on. We now have our Dagger Specialist. Basically, this guy is like an assassin, okay? This guy's main role is to find the most high threat the enemy has. We're talking like Orc Warlords, and Barbarian Chosen, Champions, Knights, like whatever, bro. Like whatever has like really high armor, high HP, you're gonna want to send this guy against them. And this guy is equipped to deal with that because of the puncture ability. So I talked about the dagger a bit earlier. So the dagger has a second ability for minus 15% chance to hit. You will basically, and no criticals, no critical hits, minus 15% chance to hit, but you deal damage directly to the opponent's health, which is really good. So what this guy ends up doing is that you often kill a lot of enemies without damaging the armor at all, which is good because your bros need armor, especially in the early to mid game. You don't have like anything, you'll take anything, and this guy can secure you a lot of free loot because usually weapons deal damage to armor, which could destroy that armor, and then you can't use it, right? But if you puncture with a dagger, you don't deal damage to that armor, you can take it for yourself and use it on your bros, so that's always good. This particular build benefits a lot from the Direwolf Pelt Mantle, which is basically, it costs, I think, 3 Direwolf Pelts to craft at the Taxidermist, and what it does is, when you equip it to your armor, it costs 2 fatigue, but it gives you plus 15 durability, and it makes any enemy that engages in melee with you have minus 5 resolve. And that's really good, because I'm about to, when I explain the perks in the gear. So in terms of stats, we're going to want to have at least 90 HP before any perks. Because this guy is going to be built around having high HP, not having heavy armor. We're going to want to have a lot of fatigue, 120 fatigue, or as much fatigue as you can get on this bro as possible. Is always a good thing. Melee defense, your melee defense is gonna have to be, oh, it shouldn't be 20, it should be like at least 25 to 30 plus, to be honest. Because this guy doesn't have the heavy armor to tank hits. You have to dodge a lot. It's, in terms of melee attack, we're going to want to have as much melee attack as possible, because if we're going to be using puncture a lot, we're going to have like minus 15% chance to hit. So honestly, like, if you can get this guy up to like 100 melee attack, fantastic. In terms of initiative, we're going to want to have a really high amount of initiative, at least 120. Ideally like 150 like initiative, but like I understand that comes at the cost of other stats, but the more initiative the better on a bro like this. So we'll talk about gear. We're gonna want to have like nimble gear. So what's people talk about nimble gear, when they mention nimble gear, it's gear whose fatigue is around like 15 in total. So like you can have like a 10 armor piece, like 10 fatigue armor piece for your chest, and like 5 fatigue for the helmet. Obviously, okay, I should explain the nimble perk first. So the nimble perk is that the lighter your armor, the less damage you'll take to your health directly. So, for example, if you have like a helmet that costs 5 fatigue and a chest piece that costs 10 fatigue, that's 15 fatigue. So you will only take 40% of damage to your health. So that's like a 60% damage reduction, I believe. Yeah, I believe that's a 60% damage reduction, which is insane. So that just increases your effective HP by so much. it's fantastic, right? Obviously, you can wear heavier armor, but it will significantly diminish. Yeah. So you can, in my opinion, if you build a bro with Nimble, you're gonna want to have armor that weighs between 15 up until around 35 max to get a decent amount of benefit from Nimble. Beyond that, you basically get 0 benefit, I believe. Well, not exactly 0, but it's like 1% benefit or something like that. It's not. You're gonna want to have light or medium armor when you're using Nimble. So in this gear setup, I have a Zweihander helmet. That's a 170 helmet for 7 fatigue, and we've got a basic mail shirt, which I think is 110 armor for I think around 10 or 11 10 or 11 fatigue. So that's pretty good. In terms of weapons, we're gonna want to have a dagger. In terms of other gear, you can have a net equipped in your offhand if you want. That's always a good thing. Like if you have a net, just equip it. It's good. In terms of your backpack, you're gonna want to have a second net because you might be netting quite a lot of key targets to dagger down, to puncture. It's always easier to puncture an enemy that's netted than not, for obvious reasons. And you're gonna want a smoke pot in case this guy ever gets into danger. You can always like swap to the smoke pot, and then next turn chuck the smoke pot and get out of there. So smoke pot is always good. In terms of other gear, we're gonna want to have like the crystal skull. You don't have to use the crystal skull, but I like to have the crystal skull. So you get this item. Okay, what this item does is that any enemy engaged in melee with this brother gets their resolve reduced by 10. So that's really good. So that they get minus 10 from this skull. Plus, if you have the direwolf pelt mantle, that's another minus 5, so they get minus 15. That's really good. Okay. Moving on to the perks. We're gonna have for defensive perks, we got the Colossus, Steel Brow. Don't need to explain. Plus Nimble, which I just explained, so you take less damage to your health. Similar to the other builds, we're gonna have Dodge as well, plus Relentless, just to make sure you have more melee defense and you act earlier in the turn. Okay. As for the other defensive perks, we got Fortified Mind as well. Like I said, because having high resolve is always good. Make sure your bro doesn't flee. Having high resolve is also important if you're using the Crystal Skull, because the Crystal Skull just means that you can never be confident. So the highest morale state you can have is having a steady state. So that just means you're one step closer to wavering if you take too much damage, right? So having high resolve is always good. But Fortified Mind also works, pairs well with Fearsome as well. So I should also mention, okay, so Fortified Mind plus Fearsome means that every time you deal damage like to enemies' direct health, they are likely to waver. And since you're always puncturing, you're always dealing damage to the enemy's health, so you can easily rout like really tough enemies such as Orc Warriors and Barbarian Chosen, right? Like I think you can rout them with at least 3 attacks, like 3 direct hits. You can probably rout like an Orc champion, which is really good. In terms of the other defensive perks, we also have Overwhelm. So Overwhelm is that any enemy that acts after you in a turn will have their defense, will have their attack, their ranged attack and melee attack reduced by 10%. for every time you attack them. Okay. When you pair that with Dagger Mastery, right? Dagger Mastery reduces your AP cost for attacking to 3, so you can attack 3 times with a dagger per turn. It means that if you attack one enemy 3 times, regardless if you hit or miss on them, and you will inflict 3 overwhelm status procs on them. Each overwhelm status proc reduces the attack chance by 10%. So that adds extra survivability to your brother here, who is often fighting really dangerous enemies that have really dangerous two-handed weapons, right? I should also mention that because this guy doesn't have underdog, try not to get surrounded. Obviously, right? You're gonna want to isolate fights with this Dagger Specialist, so they're always gonna be like on the flank to just dagger down whatever enemy you need to. And other utility perk is the recover, because puncturing 3 times a turn is really fatigue intensive. I think it's 20 fatigue per puncture after Dagger Mastery is applied. So that's like 60 fatigue per turn or something like that. Or it could be only 18. I think it might be 18 actually. It might be 18 fatigue. But still, that's a lot of fatigue. So recover is always good. It reduces the fatigue accumulated by 50%. Okay. As another note that I couldn't fit here, Nimble brothers are really vulnerable to status effects such as bleed. Yeah, like stacking bleed. If an enemy stacks bleed on you, you're probably gonna bleed out really fast. They're also really vulnerable to stagger effects, enemies throwing nets on you, and getting stunned. Because this guy's most of his defenses will probably come from, or a significant amount of his defense will come from dodge and relentless. But if your initiative gets reduced by 50% because you got staggered, there goes like a lot of your extra defense, right? And you're more likely to get hit. And the more likely you get hit, the more likely you are to die. Because this guy is not wearing heavy armor. He has a lot of effective HP to work with. But, well, you can always replace armor, but it's really hard to replace brothers. Because wounds take a while to heal, and if your brother dies, they die. But if an armor piece breaks, just replace the armor piece. Or just repair the armor piece, right? Alright, moving on. I believe we're on to our 7th build now. We are almost an hour into this, which is kind of crazy. But we now have the Battleforged tank. So, Battleforged tank is... Well, this is the traditional Battleforged tank. Its whole role is just to tank a bunch of damage. What that means is you can send this guy off into the whoop whoops. He can tank anywhere between like 6 and like 18 enemies or something, and he'll be okay. He'll be okay. So you can tank many enemies, or you can also tank very specific strong enemies such as Lindworms, Unholds, Barbarian Chosen, Orc Champions. Whatever you need to tank, this guy is your man to go in and tank. Usually you put this guy onto the front line, but against like specific boss fights, you might want him on the flank. You want to push him out at least a minimum of 4 tiles away from any other brother, just so that he can operate on his lonesome and distract as many enemies as possible. This guy is fantastic. Additional third padding is always good with this guy, but there's a specific armor you get from defeating a boss called the Idjarok. He gives you a helmet and a chest piece, and those helmet and chest piece are like 300 plus armor, and every turn it replenishes 10 HP. So it makes this guy good at tanking poisons and tanking stuff like fire or miasma. Sorry, not fire, but miasma, which is like a poison gas. Because poison gas can deal anywhere between, I think, 1 and 10 damage per turn. If he's healing 10 damage per turn, he'll be fine, right? So in terms of stats, we're going to want a lot of HP on this guy. Honestly, 85 after Colossus is fine, but if you can get 100 plus Colossus, more HP, always good, right? Fatigue. You want as much fatigue on this guy as possible, because we're going to be spamming shield skills a lot, or we're going to be spamming other defensive skills, which take up a lot of stamina. Okay. In terms of melee defense, yeah, we want at least a minimum 40 melee defense before any perks or before any shields are applied, because this guy's gonna be tanking a lot. Okay, he's gonna be, like I said, tanking anywhere between like 6 and 16 enemies, 6 and 18 enemies, or something ridiculous like that. Once you actually add in all of like the shield skills and all the perks, this guy can easily get up to 100 melee defense, which makes it so that there's only a 5% chance to hit on your brother, because every hit chance is a minimum of 5%. So just get a lot of melee skill in this guy if possible. It'll just increase his survivability by a lot. As for resolve, we want at least a minimum of 60 plus resolve. Honestly, like, I build these guys for 100 plus resolve after perks and everything, because resolve is so important for a tank, because you don't want them to break. If this guy breaks, the enemy is going to get towards like your backline, it's going to get into your formation, it's going to be a bad time. If you're tanking specific enemies, you don't want this guy to break, because, like, for example, if a Lindworm makes their way into your formation, it's going to cause so much chaos. So you don't want this guy to break. Okay, let's go into the gear. So in terms of gear, obviously you want the heaviest armor, but we also want the undead necklace, the undead trophy. So you get this trophy by doing an ambition. It's like a quest. The quest is destroy 4 undead camps. Really easy. You get this thing, and what it does is that it doubles your resolve against resolve reducing effects like horrify, or like get frightened or something. Like, I don't know, man, or like mind control. It doubles this guy's resolve, I believe. So I think he'll have like 200 resolve or something like that, which is completely overkill. But more resolve is never bad, right? So, like, I guess you don't have to build this guy for 100 resolve. You can build him for like, yeah, around like 80 resolve. 80 resolve before any effects, and this guy will double his resolve to 160. So there'll be like 5% chance for like mind control effects, 5% chance of horrify to actually affect this guy. In terms of other gear, you're gonna want to equip the dagger in his primary slot, because dagger doesn't require any fatigue to equip. If you want, you can equip a spear on this guy. The Goblin Skewer in particular is really good, because it only takes 3 fatigue to equip it. But you want to avoid the heavier spears like a fighting spear, which will cost like 12 fatigue, because fatigue matters a lot on a tank, because he's going to be carrying shields. So in his shield slot, it's probably going to be carrying a Sipper shield if possible, or just put on your best shield. Just put on your best shield to use. In terms of other items, I always like to have 1 net if possible, so you can always swap out your shield with a net to, net down really dangerous enemies. For the second item, you can have a smoke pot, which is always good, but you can also, against orcs, have a second shield in here, because orcs really like to shield split, and they will probably destroy your primary shield, so you can always swap to another shield if your primary shield gets destroyed. But for most of the game, you only need to carry 1 shield. It's just against orc fights, like especially big orc fights, you want to carry 2 shields. But for most of the game, you'll probably get away with just using 1 shield. If you're not using a Sipper shield, the an orc metal shield is really good as well. Okay. If you're not using shield skills a lot, the orc shields are pretty good. But if you're using shield skills a lot, you're gonna want to be using the Sipper shield. Okay, let's go into the perks. For defensive perks, obviously we've got Colossus, Steel Brow, Fortified Mind, Brawny, for all of the other reasons mentioned before. We also got Underdog and Battle Forged as well. What's new for defensive perks is that we got Shield Mastery. It just basically doubles the benefit of, or actually no, increases the benefit of shield skills by 50%. For example, if a Sipper shield gives you plus 20 melee defense naturally, if you use the shield skill, I think you get plus 30 melee defense. So that's always good. I think it also increases the shield durability by 50% as well. Shield skill basically a must for a tank. Lone Wolf is also really good on this brother as well. What Lone Wolf does is when this brother is 4 tiles away from any other brother. No, if there's no brother within 4 tiles near this guy, he would gain plus 15% to resolve, to melee defense, range defense, melee attack, and range attack. Like he'll get like a bunch of a benefit, which is great. What's funny is that you can actually probably swap out this dagger for a sword or like a spear, like I said. And even if he has like low melee attack, when he actually has Lone Wolf on him, he can actually probably 1v1 enemies, especially like archers and stuff. He can easily run down archers, and sometimes even 1v1 like big enemies. In one of my playthroughs, my tank with like a goblin sword, 1v1 like a flesh giant, a flesh golem, by himself, and he didn't take any damage. Basically, took no damage against like a flesh golem. And flesh golems can deal a lot of damage, and they have a ton of HP, and this guy just 1v1 them. So, yeah, Lone Wolf, good to have. What's new here for defensive perks is also the Indomitable. So for 25 AP, this guy takes 50% less damage to his health, and he cannot be stunned, he cannot be moved. It's really good. So it's really important against tanking unholds, orc warriors, or anything that can push your brother back. You know, you want this guy to be like an immovable object, so no enemy can pass him, right? So Indomitable just ensures that you lock down that enemy. You lock down the enemy so he cannot move while he's in your zone of control. So Indomitable, really good to have. And obviously, because we're going to be spamming a lot of shield skills or Indomitable, we need Recover, basically. So we can recover our fatigue and keep spamming these skills. Do keep in mind that when you recover, you cannot use a shield skill or Indomitable on that turn, so you will be opened up to attack for that one turn. So do keep that in mind. It can be dangerous. Alright, moving on, we are onto our 8th build. So now we have a Nimble Duelist. So, this guy is kind of similar to a Nimble Forged bro, but instead of having Battle Forge, we just mainly focus on having Nimble, utilizing the benefits of Nimble. Obviously, like, you can make this guy Nimble Forge if you want, and he'll do very similarly, but I just want to have like a Nimble build for like a DPS character. So Nimble Duelist is actually a DPS character. You keep him on the flank. His role is to secure that flank. Any enemy that's comes close, this guy will absolutely destroy with his weapon. I should also mention that a Nimble Duelist is probably good against low and medium armor. He might struggle a bit against heavy armor, but listen, this guy can still, I think, 2-shot or maybe 3-shot Barbarian Chosen. And it can deal a decent amount of damage to Orc Warriors as well. So this guy's no pushover. But yeah, he's probably this guy's really good in short fights. The longer the fight drags on, the more this guy will struggle, I believe. Okay. But Nimble means you do have like something that you can use in your offhand, like a net, to net down dangerous opponents. Okay. In the notes, like I said before, Nimble brothers are really weak to bleed, stun, nets, and stagger. No, nothing changes there. Okay. So in terms of stats, you want to have like at least 100 HP before Colossus. Because we're using Nimble a lot. More HP, always good. A one-handed fighter, duelist, is always very fatigue intensive. So we're gonna want to have as much fatigue as we can. Melee defense, it says 20 plus here, but like I said, you want as much as you can. But on characters like a duelist, you're gonna be hard pressed balancing the stats between HP, fatigue, melee defense, melee attack, and initiative. So understandable. If you can only get 20 melee defense on this guy, okay, fine. Just make sure that you don't get him surrounded, and try to isolate fights if possible, like 1v1 or 1v2 at most, if possible. Okay, and initiative, yeah, just want as much initiative that you can get without compromising like melee defense or any of these other stats. Basically. Okay. In terms of in terms of gear, we're gonna want to have nimble armor, like I said, so that can be anywhere between 15 fatigue worth of armor up to 35. In this case, I have, like I said, the Zweihander helmet for 7 fatigue and the basic mail shirt for 10 fatigue. Okay. In terms of weapons, you can pick whatever one-handed weapon you like. A lot of people like to have the mace, because the mace has, I think, high armor piercing and it's really good at destroying undead skeletons. So that's great. Flails are always good for just headshotting dudes and getting free armor. That's also great. Axes, I have chosen this guy to have axe because it just has a really high killing potential. I think axes have the best killing potential in this game. Except actually, maybe cleavers are better, but I really like axes, so this guy has an axe. It's good at headshotting stuff. Cleavers are good. It pairs well with the Duelist perk. I should probably explain the Duelist perk first, actually. Duelist perk just means that every weapon has, when you're not using something in your offhand, like a net or a shield, your weapon, your one-handed weapon, deals an extra 15% damage to health. So that's like 15% armor piercing. So that's really good. And so it makes all your one-handed weapons good against like medium armor. Okay, and cleavers benefit the most because cleavers have really high raw damage, and they also stack bleed, but they have really low armor piercing, so Duelist helps a lot. Okay, swords are always good. If you have like the lightning sword that you get from destroying the mini boss after you kill the Kraken, obviously you can pick sword. You can have a dagger. Daggers are always good for just spamming stab. Not puncture. Puncture is the second ability. You can spam the first attack. With this guy, and you just never run out of stamina. Just walk around, just stabbing 3 times per turn. Like if you really wanted to, with the dagger, it's kind of funny. It's surprisingly good. Yeah. And spears. Spears are actually really good on a Nimble Duelist. You might not think of it, but if you give a Nimble Duelist like a spear, they can use Spear Wall to deny area, so they can screen for cavalry. They can screen against spiders, undead, Naxxuras, or Nachos, you know, if you want to call them that, or like enemies that want to rush you down. So Spear Master is actually surprisingly good. Good against goblins as well, because goblins have low HP. You walk up with a spear, stab a guy, kill him, one hit, stab another guy, kill him, and then just continue walking. So Spear Mastery is actually surprisingly good. I really like Spear Mastery, but I like Axe Mastery better because I'll explain the perks now. So we've got the standard defensive perks: Colossus, Dodge, Relentless, Nimble. We skip out on Underdog, so make sure this guy doesn't get into big fights, like get surrounded. In terms of damage perks, we got the Berserk, we got Headhunter. Headhunter obviously is good with axes because axes hit twice to the head and the chest. So you get a lot of extra damage with axes and Headhunter. Killing Frenzy, always good, and Duelist. Okay. You should note that Berserk works well with Recover, because usually if Recover takes 9 AP to recover, it takes up your whole turn. But your weapon takes 4 AP to swing, and if you get a kill, you gain plus 4 AP with Berserk. So after you kill something, if it's your first attack, you have 9 AP again, so you can Berserk recover. So that's it's nice. It's nice. It's not exactly 100% necessary, but it's nice. A lot of the times I actually don't run Berserk, and I get something else instead of Berserk. But yeah, I just have it on this build because I think it's good. Okay, as an option, you can always take out a Headhunter if you feel that you don't like Headhunter as a perk. Or actually, if you even if you don't like Berserk, you can probably take out one or the other, and then you put in Pathfinder for extra mobility. So it just makes this guy a bit better at screening enemy or wolf riders or dire wolves and hyenas and whatnot, or makes him better at rushing down like goblins. So that's really good. Okay, yeah, you can even give this guy like a goblin necklace or something, goblin trophy. All right, moving on. I believe we're on our ninth build now. So we got the ranged DPS class. So this is the build I go for to do a lot of range damage. So the role of a ranged DPS obviously is just to DPS down as many enemies as possible, or shoot down key threats. So in terms of key threats, what we're looking for are enemies with no helmets, enemies with strong two-handed weapons and no shields. So guys are using bill hawks, pikes, pole hammers, pole maces, enemies with crossbows, enemies with bows, enemy gunners, enemy engineers, goblin shamans, goblin overseers, like all of those enemies, or witches, hexen. Any enemy that is a key threat, send this guy after them. Okay? And this guy is focused mainly on dealing that damage. So we have the Nimble Forged perks. So we've got obviously Battle Forge and Nimble. We're gonna have to have that Nimble Forged armor, around 200 for the helmet, around 200 for the body armor, and that's it. No more defensive perks. We're focusing heavily on the damage perks, and for damage we got Crippling Strikes. Oh, sorry, I'm losing my voice here. It's like it's been so long. Okay, so Crippling Strikes reduces the threshold to deal injuries, which is really good if you're gonna be targeting down specific enemies, especially fleshy enemies. Like I said, like any of those enemies I mentioned like about 10 seconds ago. Crippling Strike is always good. Executioner, so you deal extra damage against those injured enemies. And if there's enemies like key threats, you're gonna want to deal as much damage to them as possible. So obviously for damage perks as well, coupled with Crippling Strikes and Executioner, or paired with it, combined with them, we got Headhunter, deal that extra damage. Killing Frenzy, extra damage. Berserk, you can hit an enemy more times, which is really good. In terms of other utilities, we got Weapon Mastery, we got Quick Hands, and we got Recover. Should note that if you have a crossbow equipped, oh, I didn't even go through the gear. I'm an idiot. I'm supposed to go through the gear first. Okay. As you can see on the gear, this guy has a crossbow plus like a pike, a two-handed pike. Because the pike, the Goblin Pike, it's not called the Goblin Pike. It's called the shucks, what was it? The Jagged Pike. Yeah, the Jagged Pike. It only costs 5 AP to use. So you can shoot some guy with your crossbow for 3 AP, swap over to the Goblin Pike, and hit them for 5 AP. So you can shoot, swing. And if you get a kill, or you can move, or you can swap back like to your crossbow, or like you can shoot with your crossbow, get a kill, reload, swap to your pike, stab something. So that's really good with the crossbow pike combo, goblin pike combo. If you have a bow, maybe you don't need to carry a pike. Maybe you can carry like extra arrows or something, and yeah, you can just snipe enemies from 9 tiles away with the bow mastery. The crossbow mastery makes it so that you do extra, I think 20% extra damage, armor piercing, for every crossbow shot. So you actually do a lot of damage against medium armor enemies, lower medium armor enemies. You would want to pick the bow mastery for a bowman instead. If you're going to be fighting a lot of low armored enemies, yeah, or like berserkers, like orc berserkers. Bow's better, but I personally believe crossbow is just more versatile. It's more versatile than the bow in terms of who it can damage. And when you pair it with like a goblin pike, you can deal a ton of damage with this brother. I think it can almost one shot witches. I might be able to one shot a witch if you hit them in the head with a crossbow, which is really good. Okay. As an option, if you want more fatigue to work with, you can take away Battle Forged and wear lighter armor, lighter nimble armor, if you want. And then you can pick Colossus for the extra HP, or pick Dodge for that more dodge chance. Can't really go wrong with that. Okay. Recover Berserk is always good. Because when you're a ranged focused DPS guy, you're gonna be using a lot of fatigue and a lot of action points. Okay. With that out of the way, I forgot to cover the notes and the stat focus. Oh my god, it's been so long. It's nearly an hour and a half. Like I've gone crazy. Yeah, just be aware of enemies pushing through your front line and catching you. Wolf riders and dire wolves that flank you as well are can be a bit of an issue against a ranged DPS character. So keep them safe. Keep these guys safe. Okay. In terms of stats, you don't need that much HP. 70 HP is fine. You can go for like 80 if you really wanted to. Around 70 is good. You want a lot of fatigue on this guy because it's going to be quite fatigue intensive. You want as much range attack as possible. If you can, invest some points into melee attack if you're going to be using like a Goblin Pike. If you're not going to be using a Goblin Pike, don't worry about melee attack. But I think having some melee attack is good on a guy like this. Okay, moving on to our last build of the day. We have the Skirmisher Hybrid. So this is for when you want to deal a ton of armor piercing with throwable weapons. Okay, so this guy's focus is to deal ranged DPS, but he's also got a toolbox with him. I should have put like a toolbox into roles. What I mean by toolbox is that we're gonna have like a perk called bags and belts, which expands this guy's inventory slot by 2, so you can carry extra stuff, like additional nets or like fire pots, smoke pots, antidotes, bandages, whatever you need, basically. Okay. Notes can carry a variety of utility items to play, which is really good. You can even carry shields if you want to on the skirmisher. You can carry a shield. In terms of stats, you're gonna want to have quite a bit of HP, around 85, before Colossus, because this guy's gonna be nimble, so more HP is always good. Gonna want to have a lot of fatigue because throwing stuff is really fatigue intensive. Equipping and throwing nets is also really fatigue intensive. Honestly, you probably go to like 120, 130 fatigue if possible for this guy. It's really good. Range attack, as much range attack as you can. Melee attack, as much melee attack as you can. Don't worry too much about defense because ideally this guy doesn't get into melee range. He can fight melee if he needs to, but is not ideal for fighting melee. Okay. In terms of gear, dogs always good. Especially if this guy's going to be on the backline or the flank. You can carry javelins. Javelins are good against are good for dealing damage through armor. They're good against like humans, so that's great. Heavy axes are better against undead and enemies that take less damage from piercing attacks. Yeah, basically undead. So these are better against undead. So you can equip double javelin or double axe, depending on what you need. In terms of the sidearm, honestly, you don't really need the cleaver if you want this guy to be purely throwing, so you can have like 3 throwing implements instead of just 2. But I always like to have a cleaver because after this guy runs out of throwing implements, I'm going to send them into melee to help support the frontliners or support the melee bros on the flanks. If possible. This guy, I like to carry 3 nets with him. So 1 equips and then 2 in reserve, just to net down those really annoying enemies. Okay. Obviously you can always change up the gear to your preference, but this is what I like to run. Okay. In terms of perks, same defensive perks: Colossus, Steelbrow, Nimble. Same offensive perks: Berserk, Killing Frenzy, and Duelist. Duelist actually benefits throwing weapons as well, even if you carry a net in your hand when you're throwing stuff. It doesn't benefit the cleaver if you're holding something though, so keep that in mind. Quick hand, so you can swap between throwing implements and swap between nets or whatever utility items you have really quickly. So quick hand's always good. Berserk, recover, always good. This guy uses a lot of fatigue. Okay. In terms of options, if you don't feel that you need to carry a lot of utility items, you can get rid of bags and belts. You can even get rid of the military cleaver. and then you're gonna want to get bow mastery alongside throwing mastery, and to equip a warbow as well. So you get the best of like close range damage with the throwing items, but you also get the benefit of being able to snipe weak enemies from long range as well. So you can do that. Or you can even get like crossbow mastery if you really wanted to. Like crossbow as your main weapon, with the crossbow bolts, and then have throwing implements in reserve. So you can do this many ways. But yeah, this is the Skirmisher Hybrid. I always like to have at least like one of these guys in my lineup. Okay, so those are my top 10 favorite Battle Brothers builds. I ranted and rambled on for long enough. It's been an hour and a half. For those who have stuck around towards the end, I do have one more build that you guys might like, and that I really love having. The Honourable mention is the Dagger Specialist. So what this guy's role is on the battlefield is to shred armor and to DPS down hordes and hordes of enemies. We're talking about like packs of 30 or 40 beasts, like Naxxramas or Nachos, serpents, hyenas, direwolves, spiders, nomads, indebted, or like whatever, bro. Like there's a lot of enemies, like noble house, a lot of like medium armored enemies, medium and low armored enemies. This guy will decimate them. Okay. You keep this guy in the back line. He is niche use. You can use him against orcs, against heavily armored enemies, but it's really risky. I should also note that the more of these guys you have in your team, the better it gets. Because if you can shred everyone's armor super fast, well, now you can deal a ton of damage super fast. It's great. I like to have anywhere between I always like to have one guy on my roster, but 4 of them on the battlefield is an absolute menace. Okay, so let's go through the gear. The gear, we're gonna have the usual war dog, the usual like nimble armor. So this is like a Metal Hallberg, I think it's a 15 armor, plus the Zweihander helmet, which is plus 7, so that's 22 worth of armor. It's pretty good. In terms of guns, in terms of other items, we're gonna have 2 handguns, and I'll explain that once we get to the perks. But we want 2 handguns and a dagger, plus the large powder bag. Okay, so in terms of perks, I've basically gone over the defensive perks before. Nimble, dodge, always good to have. Fortified mind for extra resolve, it's always good. Okay, so in terms of damage perks, this guy has crippling strikes and executioner. So once you shred the armor, any bit of damage to the flesh is going to deal a ton of damage. These guns can hit, I think, six tiles, I believe. No, it can hit 2, 3, and 2. So I think that's 7 tiles. I think they can hit like 7 tiles. So yeah, that's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage per gun. Okay. And you're gonna want to have Berserk, so you can shoot twice in a turn. Killing Frenzy, extra damage is also good. And if you don't kill them, Resolve plus Fortified Mind plus Fearsome can rout enemies. So yeah, if they don't die outright to the gun's damage output, they're gonna flee. So this is really good, especially against Nachos. Like you go up against a horde of like level 3 Nachos, and you can just rout them. It's really good. Okay. So the reason why we have double guns is because of crossbow mastery and quick hands. Crossbow mastery reduces the action point requirement to reload a gun from 9 to 6. That doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter because it only takes 3 action points to shoot a handgun. So what you want to do at the start of a fight is that you can swap handguns as your first action of a fight, reload that second handgun, end turn. And as the enemy walks towards your front line, when they get into range, you shoot once with your handgun, and if you want, swap over to the second handgun and shoot again. And if you get a kill, reload that handgun. That's really good. So this is for like really for the big shock and awe factor of shooting twice. And if you can imagine, you have 2 guys, you shoot twice. Oh, sorry, you have 1 guy, you shoot twice. 2 guys, you shoot 4 times. 3 guys, 6 times. 4 guys, 8 times. And if you have 16 guys, you shoot like 32 times, right? it's crazy. The amount of armor shred you can do, and the amount of fearsome procs you can get off, and make the enemy flee. So, I'm a really big fan of gunners. I really love them. And as an option, if you're going into a long fight and you only have like maybe 1 or 2 gunners and there's like 30, 40, 50 enemies, maybe you need like an extra powder bag. So you can swap out one of the handguns or the dagger for a powder bag. Oh, you might be wondering why we have the dagger here in the secondary. Because if the enemy makes the way into your backline, because this guy has Forward Mind and Fearsome, you can actually just puncture. You can use the puncture ability on this, hit the enemy's direct health, and you probably rout them. So many times, enemies have got into my backline, and I've just hit puncture, and then they flee. Usually, like, backliners have a hard time fighting off enemies, but if you have really high fatigue, if you have really high resolve plus really high fearsome, you can rout enemies really easily. It should say how much resolve you need here. Ideally, you get like 80 plus resolve, and you keep this guy near a Bannerman for even more resolve, so you can get more benefit out of fearsome. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed my 10 builds for Battle Brothers expert difficulty. We've gone from the Forged Generalist all the way up to our really more specialized gunner builds. I love each and every single one of these guys. It was really hard to choose between like 10 of my favorite builds plus an honorable mention. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the builds. I hope this helped you guys and give you guys inspiration on how you can build your brothers. If you want to show support to the channel, be sure to give me a like, subscribe. It'll be great, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. It's been an hour and a half. It's time to shut up and go to sleep. Bye bye.